Scouts, Andrew Sherman here. I am super excited about going on Voyager camp with all of you. It will be a 50-mile canoe trip down the New River. Actually, it'll be 43 miles of canoeing on the New River and 7 miles of whitewater rafting in the New River Gorge. We're going to be going July 5th to 11th, and when I looked through the information, started thinking a lot about this trip, this is probably a trip I think it would be really important for us to have a meeting. However, knowing that meetings usually only get about 50 to 75% of people who can attend, I thought, you know, what we really should do is I'll make a video and then put it on YouTube, and then you can like it to let me know you watched it, and then I'll know I got 100% attendance. I'm going to divide this into 3 parts. We'll have an overview, then I'll talk about the trip, and then I'm going to go into the equipment, which I think there are a few items that are really important. That's what I want to stress. I sent to you via email the information about Voyager right here. If you have not had a chance to look at this, it's real important. I want you to look at it. Some of this will be redundant. I'm going to go through it, but I'll go through it quickly. One of the things that it talks about is if you have a chance to find out more about what a Voyager is and why this camp is named, there's just a brief little thing right here that talks about it. It's kind of a neat story. There is also apparently they reference right down here on the bottom of the equipment list a couple of books by an author named Grace Lee Nutt about who Voyagers were. I haven't had a chance to read those books, but I would really recommend that you do so before the trip. I'm going to try to get one if I can. Another one that I would recommend is this book called The New River Guide, if you have a chance to pick up this. I was very fortunate. Kendall Lively sent this to me the other day. Thank you, Kendall, once again. And it's actually by a fella in the area, Bruce Ingram, who is an English teacher up at Botetourt High School. And Bruce was so kind as to do a little inscription in the beginning, and I really appreciate that. I'm sort of a little bit of a lit book nut myself, so I really appreciate that. The sections that we'll be doing are outlined in this book, and so I'm going to make sure I read those ahead of time and know what we're doing. All right. What I want to talk about is sort of our timeline and our route. I had a chance to talk to our canoe guide. He's a fellow named Rob Whiteheart. He's a student at NC State University. He sounds like a real nice guy, and he's going to go along with us the entire trip. The way it's going to essentially work is this. We'll meet on July 5th, probably at the church. We'll load up. We'll go to Powhatan, not Atari. We'll get to Powhatan, roughly in that 1-2 o'clock range. Check in. Once we've checked in, we'll go do a swim test. Real important that everybody can swim real well for a 50-mile canoe trip. After the swim test, they'll take us out and we'll do some work with the canoes on Powhatan's lake, kind of get our bearings, know what's going on. We'll have dinner that night at Powhatan, and then camp at Powhatan that night. And then the next morning, depending on how we check out, whether Rob thinks we are a beginner level group or an intermediate level group, we'll go and we'll canoe a particular section of the New. If it is the beginning level, we'll actually on Monday canoe a section called Baywood to Riverside. And if we're the intermediate level group, we'll actually canoe the section called Bridle Creek to Independence. Again, those are listed in this book. So what will happen then is on Monday night we'll camp in a little town called Freeze. We'll actually be in a little campground right there along the New River in town. And then the next morning on Tuesday we'll be traveling from Freeze to just above Buck Dam for Tuesday. Wednesday we'll be going from just above Buck Dam to Baker Island. And then Thursday morning we'll have a short section that we do where we go from Baker Island to Allisonia. We'll pull out, and then that evening or that afternoon we'll make a decision whether we're going to Powhatan and spending the evening at Powhatan and then going to the New River Gorge on Friday, or what's more likely is we will go up to the New River Gorge Center in West Virginia on Thursday, have dinner up there in a campground, and then we'll go river rafting on the New River Gorge on Friday, and then we'll transport back to Powhatan for a nice dinner and a closing campfire ceremony on Friday night, July 11th. You will note in the last page that I sent you where it gives kind of a little bit of what I just told you, that itinerary there, that it mentions on Sunday you need to have Class A for dinner in Powhatan. You're only going to wear your Class A on Sunday afternoon for dinner in Powhatan, and on Friday when we're in Powhatan again for dinner and the closing campfire. Then you need to keep it clean, bagged up, so it can't get wet and dirty for the remainder of the trip. The other thing you'll notice in here is when it talks about the gorge, it says, bring along a little spending money. I asked Rob about that. He said that we're going to have the opportunity to stop at maybe a really neat general store that's along the way out to the New River Gorge. And that there will be opportunity to go to the New River Gorge Visitor Center where there's souvenirs there as well. So there'll be some opportunity to maybe buy some neat stuff, but don't bring a lot of money. As I always say, 20 is probably enough. We will more than likely accomplish the 50-miler award. 50-miler award, once again, for the guys who did High Knoll, you know this already, but you're going 50 miles and you have to do a service project. So we will do 43 miles on the New River, 7 miles New River Gorge. It'll mean waking up a little bit earlier on the mornings to get on the river sooner to cover the mileage. I don't think that's the end of the world. And then the service project, quite honestly, is just picking up trash and cleaning up the New River as we go along, which isn't too bad. So I think it should be a goal, and I'm sure you all agree that we should go for the 50 miles, but we'll talk about that on Sunday, July 5th. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about equipment. I'm not going to go into every piece of equipment you should bring. You should have the equipment list. And I would pay close attention to it. But there are some things that I think are really important I want to make sure that I cover. So I'll just go down this list with you. If you actually have the list available, I would recommend you have it in front of you while you go through this section of the video. If you don't, hey, it's YouTube. Hit pause, go get it, print it off, come back, then watch this. All right, here we go. Storage, you need a small inexpensive dry bag with a roll down coat. I really like these, and this is not the small, this is the extra large. I'm actually going to carry this because I imagine I'll be carrying some extra things. This is one by a company called Seattle Sport. It's like a rubberized exterior. When they say roll down, the way that you actually seal these things up, you put your stuff inside, you roll it down, and then it goes over and it clips. They have these things right now at Sierra Trading Post. You can get the small. They're like $12. And Sierra Trading Post is a great site. They're always running tons of freebies. I just placed a fairly big order for rain pants and for another one of these for Jack's canoe so that he'll have one in his canoe. And a couple big carabiners. And I got 35% off as well, and it made the stuff, pretty doable for a trip like this. But that's what they mean by a small dry bag for lunch and personal gear. When we're on the river during the day, you're just really going to have, maybe your fishing gear with you, your personal gear, sunscreen, things like that you need on the river. You will not be transporting all your stuff. Tents, eating gear, clothes, all that stuff, you're going to have it in your backpack or a big duffel bag. It's going to be in a truck that they're going to transport to our site. So when we're rolling from Freeze to just above Buck Dam, we're just going to have the stuff that we need in the canoe for that day. When we get to the site, you'll have all your gear to set up camp. Next item, backpack duffel bag. You're going to store your gear. It doesn't have to be your camping backpack. It can be a big duffel bag if that's what you need to get all your stuff in. I am going to just bring my big backpack because it holds my gear the best. Clothing wise, swimming trunks, yes. Pair of dry shorts for when you're in camp, yes. T-shirts that are dry for around camp can be cotton cool. On the river, it says a wicking shirt. Okay, so I'm going to show you what I'm going to wear on the river, and I think this is real important. And the main reason is because I'm a big believer in having a physical barrier against the sun as opposed to relying on sunscreen. One of the ways I like to think about it is if you go back and you look at old pictures of fishermen and outdoorsmen and guides and all that, you always saw those guys with like long sleeve shirts and long pants on. There was a reason they were wearing their clothes like that, and it wasn't just because of modesty. They were wearing those clothes because they didn't have sunscreen, and the only way that they kept the sun from scorching themselves was to wear those types of clothes. So on the river every day, you're going to see me pretty much, actually probably will be dressed in this. And that is, we have better clothes, better fabrics now, but this is one of those fabric, this gets wet, it's going to dry out really quickly. And it's long sleeve. The other thing that I think is almost more critical than this is I'm going to be wearing long pants on the trip. These happen to be the zip-off kind. They don't have to be. And Jack will be wearing the same thing. The reason being is this. This is how you go along for 8-9 hours in a canoe all day. You're like this. And I have seen people with just horrendous burns on their legs right here, which is a terrible spot. And if you get burned really bad in the first day or two on the Voyager trip, there's a pretty good possibility that you're going to go home. Your parents are going to have to come get you, and you're going to go home. A couple bad days of sun, second, third degree burns. You're not going to want to stay in camp. You're maybe even not going to be allowed to stay in camp if you get third. You wouldn't probably be allowed to stay in camp with third degree. This is critical right here. Okay. The other items that I'm going to have with me, and I don't think this one is perfectly critical, but this is a buff. It's a great little item. I don't know if you've ever seen these. You put them over your head, and then you can wear it down. You can actually wear it over your ears. It covers your neck super well. But this will keep the sun, and once again, it's that physical barrier. I'm not getting any sun whatsoever when I'm like this. The other neat thing that's neat about this is you just take it off, you dunk it in the river next to you, it's nice and cool, you put it on, you actually cool off. So despite the fact that this may look hot to you, oftentimes when I'm on the water and I'm wearing this, I'm cooler than I would be if I didn't have it on. The other item that I'm absolutely bringing with me is a wide brim hat. This one's available at Sierra Trading Post as well. So as you can see at this point, I'm putting sunscreen on the back of my hands and I'm putting sunscreen on the top of my feet, and that's it. When I'm not wearing the buff, then I'll be putting it on my neck and face and those areas. But that to me, I would really stress to you parents, foremost the pants. These pants are the lightweight nylon-y material, much like scout pants. I think probably Sierra Trading Post or Sportsman's Warehouse will have ones that are reasonable. They don't have to be the zip-off kind. In fact, they're better if they're not, because then they don't zip them off and they are staying protected the whole time. At the end of the day, they get into camp, they can put their swimsuit on and go swim in the river, or they can put their pair of shorts on and hang around camp. But this stuff, real critical.